to show you now. Haven't done a taper in a while, but it's a quick bypass technique on a Wellington 6 lever lock. The lock in itself is only keyed from one side, and on the other side, as you'll see in a minute, we have a thumb turn. Okay, yeah, mainly used where obviously thumb turns or access or non-keyed access, etc. Is required on the inside of the door, perhaps in things like residential homes, but used all over the place, to tell the truth. The lock in itself, like I say, is a 6 lever lock, just keyed from one side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just swap this round. So what I'm going to do is take off the plate so that we can see actually inside the lock. Okay, so let's get this zoom in a little bit. Okay, I've just left one little screw in here, save having to take them all out. Okay, so I'm just going to take off this plate here. Just make sure this little, where the thumb turn would go, doesn't pop out. Okay, so I took off the plate there. Okay, so what you can basically see is the guts of the lock there. You can see the keyway from the other side, and you can see where the thumb turn would be attached just here. Okay, you can see the lever pack as well, sitting on its side, a little bit like a 3G220. But obviously this lock is designed to work as a thumb turn, or with a thumb turn from the inside. And how that basically works is just to hold that with my thumb so it doesn't pop out. If this was the thumb turn, you can see I would turn that. First lever in the lock just jumps out. I'll pop that back in a sec. Basically, as that turns, it lifts the whole pack, catches the bolt, and the bolt is free to retract. And again, the same when we lock it off, it brings the bolt back. Okay, that's basically how the lock works. Okay, just to pop that lever back in, decided to jump out. Okay, so the idea here, get it in the right way. The idea here is to basically manipulate and bypass how this actual lock works. And thankfully, what there basically is, there's a nice little gap here, i.e. from the keyway, okay, going down to this little gap here, that allows us to get a little hook shape pick in and actually lift the complete pack all at the same time, because the pack only sits high and low where the key blade would make contact, i.e. in this part here. The rest of the pack, just behind this first lever here, most of it all sits flush except for this first lever in the lock that slightly sits a little bit lower, but it's lifted to the same height. You can see that. Okay, so you can see the top fence here. And when I lift that, you see there's no bottom fence. So bring it in line, so all the lever pack, the undersides here are all matching. You can see how now that bolt would be free to pass through. And that's basically what the pick wire would do, was to go in and lift all the pack so that bolt stump can pass through. Okay, what the tool basically looks like that I'm going to use, just to zoom out a little bit, basically just a bit of spring steel that I've made here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Okay, just a short little bit, little hook shape, and the size of the hook that I've made, okay, the height and the depth matches the inside of the lock case. So basically when I put that into the lock, that will allow me to go in and get into that position that I want. So i.e. I'd come in from the other side with my hook. My hook pick would come through. Just going to hold this first lever in the lock. You see it wants to spring out. So my little hook pick would come through and sit in the lock like so. Okay, now when I push down on that, you can see how it lifts the whole pack. Okay, it lifts it to its correct position. At the same time as I do that, what I'll also have in the lock, let's line that back up, what I'll also have in the lock is a little tension tool. And a tension tool, again, I've just made out a bit of spring steel. Okay, and that will allow me to go into the lock, because the part of the lock where the tension tool needs to go, or the bolt tail, is just here. So that will allow me to go into the lock and bring that round onto the bolt tail like so. Hopefully you can see that. At the same time I'll have my hook pick in to manipulate that pack. Okay, so let's put all that into one. So all I need to do first is quickly pop the plate back on. Hopefully you've understood there just how that lock works. Okay, I'm just going to pop 2 screws back in. Usually has 3, but just for a bit of speed. So there's 1. There's 2, just to make sure that that all works. Okay, so I can just test that with a screwdriver in the thumb turn. You can see how that retracts the latch. Okay, let's spin this back round to the key side. Okay, so there's the locking device. Okay then, so first tool into the lock is going to be my little hook shape pick. So just to zoom in. Okay, so it's just my little hook shape pick into the lock first, and that will basically just be fed into the keyway, and it wants to be in this sort of position here. Okay, it slightly points down in towards the lock, so I'll just position that in and feel for when I slide in that position. And now I can feel the pack. I can feel when I'm pressing, you can see it springing that bit of pick back up. So that's the position for my pick there. Then it's next in with the tension tool, and the bolt is simply in this sort of position here, so I'll be applying tension to throw that bolt up. Okay, remember that the lever pack sits on its side, so I position that in, feel for that bolt. Okay, so I'm just on the bolt there. You may have seen that bolt slightly moving in a small amount, so I get a good grip on that bolt, throwing the bolt up, manipulate the pack, so I'm pushing all the pack down at the same time. Okay, and you've got to catch it in the right place. Okay, keeping everything straight, tension on, you can see the bolt retracts. Okay, a little bit of fiddling about there, so just to show you that again, I'll throw the bolt back. So, hook pick, feel that spring load on the lever pack, pushing it all out the way, tension on, and a bit of manipulation, and it goes. Okay, obviously this lock as well can be picked in a traditional way, i.e. perhaps going in with a couple of pick wires, etc. But you can see this is a lot quicker. Little tip: once the bolt is thrown, okay, it's quite hard to get everything out, okay, because where your hook pick is now sat, it's basically seized itself in a lock. So once you've got the door open, it's simply a case, throw the bolt back, that'll free up your little hook pick, you can get your tension tool out, and then job done. Okay, hopefully that's explained a quick bypass technique on a Wellington 6 lever. And again, just to take a look at the actual tools that I've just used there, basically a little hook pick. Okay, like I say, height is enough to go from the keyway or towards the bottom of the keyway to reach the underside of the lever pack where the thumb turn makes contact, and the depth is enough, so you've got enough room to actually make contact with all six levers in a lock. Lastly, the tension tool is basically this sort of shape, because that allows you to go in like so, bring that round onto the bolt in that sort of position. Job done.